I grew up in a place where they told you what to chase, told you how to run the race. Every move was on the page, but I didn't like their way. Had to fight and misbehave, had to find a way to change, had to leave to find my way.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Gamble, the high-stakes game of life. My name is TJ Lasig, and we've got another golf-focused podcast here today because, Coop, this past Sunday, we witnessed probably the most epic Masters Sunday of our lifetime, at least in a long time, as far as I can remember. Rory McIlroy finally secures himself the green jacket and did so in one of the most roller coaster rounds of all time. Some of the best shots I've ever seen. Some of the absolute worst shots I've ever seen. Eventually gets it done in the playoff against Justin Rose. But yeah, Coop, how are you feeling after that Sunday at the Masters?
Yeah, that round is definitely going to be talked about for decades. And I think if Rory won, obviously Rory did win, but no matter what happened on Sunday, had Rory won, even if he waltzed to victory, it would have been the most relevant round of golf, professional golf that I've ever witnessed. I mean, we're likely never going to see anybody again chase the Grand Slam like Rory has chased it. I mean, we might get someone like Spieth or somebody else that has an opportunity to get it, which would be fantastic. But you got to count on history. There only being, now 6 golfers to win the career Grand Slam. Rory getting it done after 40 plus majors, 10 plus years. That was his 11th attempt at the Masters in securing the Grand Slam. So I just feel like it was going to be historic no matter what. And then we got the roller coaster of all things golf and pressure on Sunday. Like you said, some of the greatest shots of all time and some of the absolute most boneheaded mistakes and things that you would never imagine a top tier professional golfer to ever do, let alone to do on the back nine in pursuit of literal history. It was truly, truly insane. And I mean, a lot to kind of get into all things golf, but yeah, really interested in kind of how your viewing experience was. I sat down on the first hole when the leaders teed off, and by the end of hole 2, I was texting a couple of groups of buddies, like, find a couch immediately. If you're interested in golf, you're literally going to witness history and a round of golf that will get talked about for forever in our lifetime.
It really was crazy. I'm not one to get super feel the stress of watching professional sports. That's just never quite really been my thing. I mean, I'm a Philly sports fan, but I'm not someone that lives and dies by whether or not the Eagles win. But man, I really felt it watching Rory that entire back nine. Like, I wanted him to win. I don't think there's a single person watching that didn't want him to win. And it was probably, beforehand, I would say most people wanted Rory, but maybe there were some people that wanted Bryson. But it's almost like once you saw the struggles and some of those mistakes, for me, it became more and more like, man, I hope that this has a happy ending, because if these mistakes lead to him kind of choking away the green jacket and choking away another major, it's like, I don't know if he's ever going to recover. And yeah, it started off his round with that double bogey on 1. And I'd also say on this pod, we're going to talk a lot about the Masters because that's super relevant, but just about the state of professional golf in general. And so much of it over the past 2-3 years has been Rory front and center, narrating the whole story of professional golf, being, I think super open about his thoughts. And, you had the whole live thing, and Rory kind of started that journey as like the ultimate PGA stan. And then you've heard his tune change of wanting everyone to get back together. If you watch the Full Swing show on Netflix, you see more directly kind of what Rory has gone through. So I feel like all of that also made a lot of people just feel kind of a personal connection to Rory in the way that he's gone about his career, and specifically in the last couple of years, how open he's been with the journey. So it's really fun to see, and I was happy that he won.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys who I'm not a massive Rory guy. I do think he's basically perfect from the game of golf standpoint, which you see more and more of these more perfect individuals. I'll put a couple of guys in the same category, like, I'll call in Morikawa. There's a couple things that he might do, but kind of has like this more perfect appearance externally. And I would say Rory, I mean, he is the definition of perfect. He's open. He gives you everything. But I don't know. There's something about it that I usually don't really root for Rory. And I just wanted
hater.
I just wanted Bryson to have his A game. I thought I listened to a lot of people talk and kind of watched a lot of things after the third round, and most everything pointed at Bryson just not really having his game. Ultimately, he was hacking it around with his irons. He hadn't really found that many greens. The short game was absolutely saving his behind all over the place. I mean, I think it was on 10 or 11 on Saturday, Bryson was in the trees, way behind the green. I mean, if you miss Augusta greens for long, you're likely making bogey. He was in the trees, in the pine straw. People were kind of writing him off as being done, and somehow he hits a shot to 2 feet and makes par. I mean, some of the recoveries that he was making was insane. So I had kind of hoped on Sunday Bryson just had his A game, and you got to witness these two guys go at it so much. And I am thankful that the chasers, Justin Rose, Ludwig Oberg, I'm so happy that those guys played well and applied the pressure, because I think that's what you saw. If Bryson and Rory were after it, I mean, he was terrible, just flat out bad from a professional golf standpoint. And you felt that after Rory came back from the first double, you felt that Bryson was just not going to be able to get there. And the rest of the field, they certainly kept Rory honest, and Rory kept himself honest, because I think you witnessed the fact that Rory needed to slay one thing and one thing only, and it was his own brain. It was his own mindset. It was his own sort of mental demons that Augusta brings out of him. And now that he's slain them and had, 100+ lives essentially on this 118 holes and survived to live 101 of them and gets the win in a playoff hole. Now you really do get to think about what Rory can do, because he's going to be swinging about as freely as any golfer is going to swing the rest of his career.
It's not crazy to visualize a world where he just goes out and wins every major this year. I mean, he's already off to a hot start. What was that? His third win already this year. And he had 4 double bogeys throughout this. There's a world where he wins the Masters by 10 shots. Those putts he missed, those mistakes he made, all the double bogeys. He's reminding us how, obviously Scottie Scheffler has been the best golfer in the world for 2-3 years now, but you can argue that Rory's A+ game surpasses Scottie's game. And it's also just another classic tournament where what did Scottie finish? 4th place.
Yep.
Played terrible golf, quote unquote, terrible golf, couldn't make a putt. You look up at the leaderboard and then he finishes in 4th. So Scottie is for sure has more consistency than Rory, but Scottie plays boring golf when he's playing well, because he just hits it in the fairway, hits it onto the green, and then either makes the birdie or doesn't. Rory, as you saw in this round, he it's a little more like the old Jordan Spieth kind of golf, where you see just crazy good shots and some crazy mistakes, and really takes you along that roller coaster, which is more fun to watch, frankly.
Yeah, the comparison to Spieth, I read a little bit earlier today. I saw some comparisons to Spieth, and I think that's pretty fair. I would say it comes down to the driver. That's the only difference. Like Spieth, when he hits the driver, could be anywhere, right? Rory, his outcomes are a lot more tight. But yeah, from a mental standpoint, it does feel like Rory is when he's in go mode, he can hit the best shot in the world, or it can just end up in left field somewhere where he's kind of just scramble to make par. So it's definitely sort of it's very sporadic in terms of the outcome. But when he has his A game, I think you have to tip the cap at this point. If Rory has his A game and Scotty has their A game, it's going to be one hell of a match. And I think those two guys, from the viewpoint of the PGA Tour for now, those two guys are heads and shoulders above anybody else when it comes down to playing their best. I mean, maybe you get a guy like Bryson who plays live. If he's on his best, maybe he's up there. But I still think Rory and Scotty are in a league of their own when it comes to the best of the best in the world. I'm interested in your take on a couple of the crazy shots. I mean, I think the first take I'm interested is on Thursday. How does Rory hit this shot into 15, playing essentially perfect golf? He's over the green on 15 by 4 yards, 5 yards. And is he simply trying to hit too aggressive of a shot? Or did he just completely mess up? I'm very interested. I don't know if you saw, but like no one really had a take if he just messed up, if he was just trying to get too aggressive. I just don't understand how a guy of Rory's caliber hits that shot into the water when there's just no need to on a par 5 when you're there in 2. I'm interested in what you think.
Yeah, it was felt like a more of a, I mean, probably a combination that he's trying to be aggressive with it, but definitely mishit it. And yeah, I don't like, he just got in his own way down the stretch and makes 2 doubles late, which there's totally, I mean, after watching this whole weekend, and even hearing him talk, there was totally a mental something going on when it comes to Rory and Augusta and this tournament. And I think that likely showed up in that shot. And it was like, there was this part of him that was all week long preventing him from running away with this thing, because the way he was playing like someone that was going to run away with it at Augusta, which we've seen be a thing, right? People have many times, going all the way back to Tiger. You can win at Augusta, you can blow the field out at Augusta almost more so than other tournaments, because if you're, playing well, the birdies are out there. But I think that was kind of the first sign of the demons holding him back. And, then you heard him with the narrative after that was, I'm not going to let 2 holes dictate the narrative of the week. Comes out on Friday, and that's when he shot 6 under, right?
66, Friday, Saturday, back to back.
So comes out 66, gets himself in the lead in that final group. And it's funny because I'm looking at the show notes that we have. We were originally planning to record this prior to the show. Life got in the way, recording it after the fact. But it's funny, some of the things that I have just generally on the list is PGA versus Live, is Bryson and YouTube golf, is the show Full Swing. And it's kind of like all of those things came to fruition in that Sunday, Rory versus Bryson. It didn't even end up being the showdown that we wanted it to be, but the I would say probably the face of the PGA, and Bryson's I mean, I don't even think Liv really has a face at this point, but like Bryson's arguably the only golfer that is more popular with Rory in different parts of the world just because of all his YouTube stuff. And I think when you watch the Full Swing show, you see a lot of Rory, you see stuff with Bryson too. And I just found it all just tied together. Like, you literally could not have written the script for Masters weekend to be any better. So whoever's out there writing scripts, thumbs up. You're doing a nice job.
Yeah, definitely agree on Bryson too. For sure, the most popular golfer that doesn't play on the PGA Tour. I think the only other person that gets close to Bryson is probably Brooks Koepka. Obviously, we're American, so I don't want to discredit John Rahm, but he hasn't really shown up. I think Bryson continues to show up in these events where you're only going to see the Live golfers 4 times a year at best if they're in these major events. And so Bryson has continued to show up. Obviously, US Open last year, he takes Rory down. He was in front, so credit to Rory here. Rory's in front at the Masters. He keeps the lead. He gets the win. Bryson was in front at the US Open, and he gets the win. So I think it's 1-1 now, and I think the whole golf world would absolutely love to see Bryson, Rory at Oakmont or at Portrush or at Quail Hollow here. Those are the next 3 major sites. And, I think a lot of people have said it. One, Quail Hollow, Rory's already won twice. He has a chance to win Quail Hollow. And then Oakmont is a pure bomber's paradise there with a ton of trees taken out. Obviously, U.S. Open conditions is going to play really hard, and then Portrush is in Ireland. So I think Rory has a chance to not only get his 6th major here, pretty quickly. It's going to be at his favorite course. I mean, it's going to Quail Hollow is going to play right into Rory. So you could see someone who's really freely swinging the golf club, and after, what is the next ambition from Rory's perspective? Because at this point, he's on the Mount Rushmore of golf. He's probably a top 15, top 10 player of all time, and he's going to chase down the legends that are in front of him now with all his all the career that he has left in front of him. So it'll be really fun to watch.
He's going to be walking around with that Rory swag for sure. I love when Rory gets that little walk going.
The bounce.
No
one
walks with the bounce that Rory does. And I'll tell you what, for a lot of that round on Sunday, he did not have the bounce. Like, you could tell that he was nervous, or you could tell that his inner monologue was just like, man, are you really going to F this up again, Rory? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, we should talk about the first hole. I watch a lot of pro golf, and I definitely can sympathize and understand that there's nerves, especially in these big events. But I don't know that I've ever visibly seen a pro golfer be nervous. And my goodness, on Sunday, Rory looked incredibly nervous as soon as he stepped foot on the green. Like, he was walking up to his 3rd. He hit in the bunker, was probably 2 yards away from being perfect drive. He's stuck with that sort of misfortune on his first shot. Then he's over the green. Then he gets it on the green and 3 putts. And man, you could just tell every putt was nervy, and a 2-shot lead went away pretty damn quickly when it comes down to it. Bryson from the trees makes par. You're thinking, oh, here we go. 17 holes and it's mano-a-mano. And Bryson failed to live up to the hype that he had coming in, and Rory took control ultimately until the 13th hole. And it was really fun to watch. And I think I haven't watched it back yet. Everyone loves to watch major Masters rounds specifically back. The Tiger one is rewatched a ton, where he's just making a ton of birdies. I think that round will likely be one of the most rewatched rounds, just because it is the most roller coastery round of golf and most relatable round of golf for people that hit fantastic shots, hit 3 or 4 fantastic shots in a round, and then make 10 boneheaded mistakes, because that just felt like what Rory did ultimately.
There's nothing quite like the Masters, quite like Augusta National. Let's talk a little, just zooming out from this specific weekend, but what makes the Masters itself so spectacular and so different? I'm actually rocking my Masters quarter zip here. Not a big deal, but had the opportunity to go to Augusta a couple years back and went to a practice round. And it's one of those things where it's so hyped up, right? You're like, all right, it can't possibly live up to the hype, but it does. It does. The place is just absolutely immaculate. There's not a blade of grass that's out of place. The hills are just crazy. You can kind of see it on TV, but it's the undulations are just unbelievable. And one of the more interesting things, when you don't quite realize until you're there, and you can notice it on TV, is that you can't have your phones there. And I think that really elevates the experience in a lot of ways. It's funny, because I was thinking about the fact that when you're there watching, you don't know what's going on outside of what's in front of you until you see things posted on the leaderboard. So I was just thinking about that throughout the day too, especially because the people that were competing for the lead were not in the same group. So it's like, I don't know, it must have been interesting as a patron there. Like, say you're watching Rory, but like you see Justin Rose make another birdie, and you're just like, oh my God, every time the leaderboard flips there. And it's also cool to see, when you see so many moments in, not even just in golf, in general, you see like a picture of something and there's phones everywhere. Everyone's got their phone out, and it's like, you see these pictures and videos and everyone's just totally in the moment. So I think that's one element that's pretty cool. And then there's just so much tradition layered on top of everything to do with the Masters, all the best players coming together. It's really a totally unique beast, and for sure the best weekend of golf year in, year out.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's always like one or two things that I also learn about what you can do or can't do at Augusta, or some of the unwritten rules, even for the players. I think it's such an interesting thing to think about, from at least from my point of view, like how the Masters became the Masters, how all these traditions became something, and all the times continue to change. Every year there's new technology, there's new, ways to experience things. But the Masters, I mean, how many places on earth can you get? I don't know how many people go to the Masters. So, something I should probably know, but there's tens of thousands of people that go there for these rounds. How many places on earth can you get tens of thousands of people that follow a rule of not having your phone? Of course, there's probably a person or two that has their phone, but so many people that get the opportunity to go there, they want to follow the rules. They desire to, because it is an experience that you don't get anywhere else. And I think that the phones thing is definitely really unique, but there's some other elements of the Masters that just make it what it is. And I am so interested, and I presume it's because, if other golf tournaments tried to do things like this, it would be like, oh, they're trying to be like the Masters, or, oh, they're trying to be like Augusta. And of course, you're always going to get that backlash initially, but it takes this repetition and it takes this execution over years to build these traditions that make it so great. And the Masters just doesn't care. They just continue to do these things. They continue to uphold every rule that they have, and it continues to be, every year for me, even better. It's more tradition, it's more history, it's more about the past, and an omen to how things used to be, more than any place else in the world. And everyone that goes there, from A-list celebrities, they have such a good experience, and they're so enthralled in what is happening. And yeah, I think, to come back to the phones piece, there were multiple people that made a mention. There's so many pictures of everyone just dialed in, every single person witnessing the same thing with their two eyes and not looking at it through a phone. And it's just really cool. But yeah, things like the Champions Dinner, the par 3 contests, the green jacket, and all the allure of the green jacket and what that means. I mean, there's so many things that the Masters does, and they just execute to perfection. So props to the best golf tournament in the world. And I don't think any golf tournament's ever going to get close to the Masters from my point of view.
Yeah, some of the fun videos I like to see before the round too are like they all have their kids out there. Like, did you see that putt that Rory's daughter made? Like, that was hilarious. And then I saw an interview with Tommy Fleetwood's kid.
Yes, I saw that too.
Oh, so good. It's so good. I don't know.
Cupe makes the hole-in-one on the par 3 contest with his kid. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
And I don't know, maybe that happens at other tournaments too, but for some reason with the Masters, you see that coverage, and I don't know.
It brings it all together. It really does. It's
you can tell it means something more to the players too.
For sure.
They're for sure treating their Masters experience differently than others. And Michael Kim, who's a PGA Tour grinder that tweets a lot, he was kind of documenting his experience. He qualified for the Masters this year, I think, through being top 50 in the world golf rankings. So, even just with things like that, you can tell that there are guys on tour where playing in the Masters is still feeling like a pipe dream. And then to see that come to life for some of those is always fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. A couple other tidbits on Masters, at least. So we're doing the show afterwards. I think Justin Rose, for me, is on a really, really high list. I want to see him win. To lose 2 times in a playoff is crazy. To be as gracious as he was. Now, obviously, he's playing against Rory, and Rory wins the Grand Slam right in front of him. But I just think it takes another level of grace and humility as a person to be able to stand in front, answer the questions, ultimately be really positive. He made a mention of how the last time he finished second in a playoff, he ended up getting to world number 1 afterwards. He was talking about his own game. He's back in action this week, but I thought it was just awesome to hear his perspective. You also saw Rory hugging his wife, and they had like a long embrace. I know I was watching with a few of my family members, and they were like, wait, is that his wife? Who's that? I was like, actually, it's the guy that just lost his wife. And they were like, oh, okay. And then you have Lowry there embracing, and Lowry shot, I think, 81 or something on Sunday. So I think everyone, like the Justin Rose for me is up there, and Lowry being supportive of Rory. Obviously, you want to see him, but he was top of my list. And then I saw Ravel tweet this, but a guy I was really looking at potentially making a rush once Rory had made some of those boneheaded mistakes was that Ludwig Oberg. And man, he played flawless. He had a couple lip outs, even had a chance to get to 11 under. And then he made triple on 18. I think he just knew he had to make birdie. He forces an approach shot. And then after that, it looked like he honestly gave up. It looked like he wasn't even really trying on the greens. And he plays really fast. But he made triple on the 18th, and I think it cost him like $550,000. He would have finished 9 under, which would have been tied for third with Patrick Reed. Instead, I think he finished like 7th or 8th or something like that. It cost him $550,000. I thought that was pretty notable from the final grouping. And it won't matter for these guys when it comes down to the money. But yeah, it was just very interesting to see him be in the mix and wanting it so badly, and then realizing that, all right, I'm not going to win this thing. And he was just like, get me off the course. Like, let me just tap this thing in. I don't care what I'm shooting at this point.
It was funny. You mentioned Rory hugging Justin Rose's wife and Shane Lowry being there and all that. As he was doing that walk, my wife was asking me so many questions. Like, is the walk always this long? Like, who's that guy? Who's this person? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I know maybe 3 of them, but yeah, he really had quite the. I was like, I don't know if it is always this long, or definitely not as dramatized as his exit walk was.
Yeah,
obviously the walk itself always is, but like I don't remember a exit from 18th green to clubhouse quite like what we saw with Rory there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I think pro golf coverage gets a lot of shit, whether it's too many commercials or whatever it might be. And the Masters has figured out ways around that as well, which is also really unique. But I think the coverage, CBS, I think Joe Pomp reported this, but I believe in an 8-minute stretch of coverage that was after the Masters, Jim Nantz and others said 42 words in 8 minutes, and the camera was perfect. The execution of it was perfect. You felt every bit of emotion. Rory on his knees at first, then sort of crying, and then getting it back together, and then kind of crying again when he was witnessing and embracing with people. You got to feel it. You got to feel it. And it's probably, I have no idea, but it's probably incredibly difficult to be able to put people in the moment from a television perspective. But man, I felt like I was basically there. So props to the coverage, because it was top notch.
Yeah, it was awesome to see all around. One of the greatest Sundays in the history of golf. So it felt like the perfect topic to talk through on the pod here, and be fun to sweat the rest of the PGA Tour season here, the rest of the golf season in general. And yeah, I think we can mostly wrap it up for this show, but we'll just be continuing to follow all the dynamics going on with professional golf. And I'm quite sure this will not be the last time we talk through things like this on the show. Any final thoughts, Coop, on the 2025 Masters, the state of professional golf, etc., as we shut her down?
No, I think it'll be really interesting to watch Rory. I think it'll be the story of golf for 2025. Like I said, the majors line up really well for him. I think we'll see the drive. We'll see if Rory kind of, takes his couple weeks off here and embraces the fact that he finally gets it done. But then when he gets back out on the course, what kind of golfer, what kind of legacy does he really want to have? Because I think he's got the entire world in front of him to chase down, how high he can personally get on the list. And, for someone that has Rory's background, and for someone that won so quickly early in his career, he's kind of back to winning quickly again. Like you said, 3 wins total now in not even the first quarter of the year, and all of the golf in the world in front of him. So it'll be really fun to watch. And I'm sure that will be most of the storylines here for 2025. So tons of good stuff from a golf standpoint. And yeah, happy to be a fan watching along the way.
Going to be a fun rest of the season without a doubt. All right. Thanks everyone, as always, for tuning in. Stay gambling, my friends.
Caught up in a daydream, I beat my mind up there almost daily. It's how I pass time, no opinions safely. It's how I understand what I want in the spacey. Cause everybody wanna tell you bad things, what could go wrong, what fame brings. But success is a finicky thing, and if you ain't sure, no, it'll never be.